going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be talking all things Barry, the best build for Barry, how I think he's going to be in every single game mode, what his best matchups and counters are going to be, and also how strong I think he'll be in the meta. And of course, first and foremost, let's just talk about Barry and how his main attack works. So he deals 1,320 damage, and his main attack will linger for 6 seconds, so that is 6 ticks worth of damage. His super charges with 9 ticks, which is pretty interesting, and his super covers a large area with a bunch of paint on the ground, 5 puddles right here. And the great thing is his star power will actually increase his movement speed, not his movement speed, his reload speed, but we'll go into that in a little bit. Of course, he's a thrower with some pretty decent range. His range is normal. He's got a very slow reload speed. His healing is 660, so we'll go and receive some damage right here. And if we pop the puddle on the floor, we will heal and our teammates will heal as well. But not only that, he has a trait that builds up his super through the amount of healing that he deals to his teammates. So that's going to be super underrated, and that's going to allow him to chain through his supers a lot easier. He has a long range with his super, so he can dash a long range, of course, and he deals damage and heals upon his super. So you go through the robot here, 3,000 damage plus the tick damage that's going through the paint. That also heals as well. So if you can go through your teammates and then onto the opponents, that's going to do a lot of healing and damage. So that is everything to do with the basics of Barry. So now we're going to be moving on to Barry's build, starting off with his first gadgets. So his first gadget is called Friendship is great, and he knocks back opponents and heals up for 1,000 and his allies as well. So he doesn't even need to like knock back an opponent. He can just press it and just heal up for 1,000, which is pretty decent. But the reason why this is going to be so good is because Barry is a thrower, so of course he's vulnerable to assassins. So if he's got a knockback capability with a click of the button, it's going to be insane. It's going to be able to counter his weaknesses. So this already is going to be one of my favorite gadgets. So now moving on to his second gadget, which is called Healthy Additives. I think that's how it's pronounced. But essentially, his main attack will last on the ground for 100% longer. So this is another really strong gadget, especially offensively. So you can see here with the gadget, it's actually going to last for 12 seconds, dealing 20% to the high save, which is insane. You look at the main attack, for example, that will deal 10% to the high save. So for whatever reason, if you're able to get close to the high save, it's just absolutely insane. And just as well, just being on the ground for longer, that's going to be some good aerial denial. And you think if it pairs well with his first star power as well, being able to reload, just look at the amount of zonage you're able to get, because you can just sit on it. You can also heal as well. I think both gadgets are going to be super strong. So now moving on to his first star power called Floor is Fine. So he will increase in his reload speed by 50% when he stands within his paint puddle. The reason why this is just so good is because he has a very slow movement speed. So of course, standing in your puddle is going to be super strong. It's going to allow him to get extra DPS, extra healing, and just be a lot better. Also, if you pair it with the second gadget, for example, which stays on the ground for 12 seconds, that's 12 seconds worth of extra reload, which again is going to be absolutely insane. Another way you want to use this star power is to constantly push the opponent. So for example, if you're pushing up the map and there's no one here, you can just run straight here, spam out a few attacks, and you can further go up the map and just keep spamming up those paints and just eventually overwhelm the opponent with the amount of damage and the amount of coverage that you'll get. This star power will definitely be the better one. Okay, so now moving into the second star power called Making a Mess. So essentially, he will deal 20% damage on an uncovered area, so upon impact. So instead of the first tick being 1,320, it will be 1,584, which sounds okay. When you think about it, that's just an extra 200 damage, which really is nothing in comparison to a fixed 50% extra reload speed. So I don't really see this one being useful at all. So now let's move into his best build. Of course, things might change when I test him out, so whenever he arrives with early access, just watch my video and I'll tell you guys straight away once I push him to rank 35. But I get the feeling that Friendship is great. It's going to be the better gadget overall, especially if you're playing on ladder, because you won't be sure who you're going to be facing off against. You might need that knockback. 1,000 healing is pretty decent as well. This is going to be really good in heist and just overall to synergize really well with the first star power. I think both gadgets are going to be good and have its use cases, whereas star powers, I think only one star power 100%. Surely you're only going to use this one because again, you might cover the same area with your main attack, and it's only an extra 200 damage, which is literally nothing, whilst 50% increase, it means you can heal more, it means you can just cover more area, more aerial denial, more damage. Why wouldn't you want to use this one, for example? But in terms of gears, I really think the gadget charge gear is going to be the better one overall, and because he's super squishy, I would probably opt for a shield gear, maybe a damage gear, because you can make good use case for it with a thrower. But I think shield and the gadget gear definitely has to be the best build. Now we're going to be going through the good matchups and the bad matchups for the brawlers which counter Berry in theory. So the first one's going to be good matchups, which are going to be, for example, Stu. So I think it's going to have a good matchup versus Stu. Stu is quite squishy, and because he's a healer, Stu really struggles against brawlers like Poco and just healer compositions, whilst I think Berry will be really good for this. And even if Stu closes the gap, he can have a getaway super, so Berry will be good for that. Next we have Charlie. So again, Charlie just suffers against throwers, and I just think in a 1v1, Berry will just be able to defeat brawlers like that, if you get what I mean. If there's no wall break or anything like that, then easy lanes like that should be pretty free for Berry. Next up, Tara, same again, just those typical lane brawlers you want to be just abusing, as a Berry just deals a lot of damage into him. There's no way for them to kind of close the gap onto him. Next we have Rico. So Rico, of course, gets countered by throwers. Again, a pretty easy matchup for Berry overall, and even with Rico's hypercharge, I think it should just be very easy even for Berry to push into Rico, because you can just eventually push into your own paint puddles to heal up, get extra reload. It should just be pretty free matchup. And then lastly, Nita. Of course, Nita just struggles against all throwers, so it should be pretty free. So now moving on to the counters to Berry, and I actually feel like because of how strong Berry will be, I don't think there'll actually be that many counters, because it's actually a way for Berry to deal with everything, even though he's a healer thrower, which actually deals insane damage, if you get what I mean. Yeah, so have a fun time countering him. The first one's going to be Miko. So I think Miko's going to be a great counter to Berry. Main reason being, of course, in a 1v1, Miko is really good against a lot of brawlers. Berry does have a knockback and a getaway super though, so I think eventually he probably might be able to at least escape Miko, but I think in a pure 1v1, Miko should be good. Next up, we have BB. So again, Berry just has a very slow reload speed and has no like instant damage. So if BB gets close and personal, there's not much Berry can really do, except for like a small knockback, but once those gadgets are down, it's free for BB. Next up, we have Edgar. So again, the same as Miko. Berry does have a knockback and a getaway super though. You got to bear that in mind, but I think once some utility is down, Edgar should be pretty decent. And then we have Sam and Buzz. So the same type of brawlers. Sam could just be really aggressive with the constant healing, which you'll end up out healing Berry pretty much all of the time. But again, I think Berry can still deal with assassins somewhat because of his super to get away. It will just be whether he can cycle it through to it quickly enough. And then lastly, Buzz, of course, with the stun. There's just nothing that Berry can do. There's no instant damage, but at the same time, at least it deals damage over time. So if Buzz is stunning, he's going to get a lot of damage dealt to him through the paint puddles. So all in all, I think he's a typical thrower that might get countered by the same type of brawlers, but he has a lot of different things than ordinary throwers. A getaway super, a knockback gadget, so I think he'd be quite defensive for a thrower. So now we're going to be going through all 3 versus 3 game modes, giving you guys a rating on how strong I think he'll be, and then at the end I'll be giving you guys a ranking on how strong I think he'll be in the meta. So starting off with Gem Grab, I think in Gem Grab he'll be a really strong brawler, easily A tier, probably maybe even S tier. The other thing that will of course hurt him a little bit is the map pool selection. There's a few bushy maps, but I think that the vision gear might actually be really strong on Berry on the bushy map. Main reason being because already his main attack covers an area for 6 seconds. If the brawler just stands over it a little bit, and then vision gear can just make it so you can keep on top of that brawler, I've got a feeling that he's going to be very strong in Gem Grab. Next up, we have Heist. So I think again the map pool might be a little bit limited, but I think he might be like A tier, maybe even S tier, because one shot deals 10% damage to the high safe over time. And with the damage gadget as well, 20% for one shot over a wall. You think of Hot Potato, for example, if you can just sneak down the lane a couple of times in a match, you could probably deal 50%, 60% to the safe with a couple of shots. That's just insane to me. So I think easily A tier there as well. In Bounty, again, it depends on the map pool. I think if he gets a good throw map like Canal Grande or Hideout, he's going to be easily S tier, maybe in the middle as well. The good thing is about him is that he has a super that can actually take down sharpshooters in Bounty. So probably S tier in Bounty as well. Next, we have Brawl. So I think easily S tier in Brawl. He's going to see a lot more aggro brawlers, and he does have very slow reload speed, but again, he's got a super to get away, a super to cover a lot of area. I just think he's going to be broken there. Next up, we have Hot Zone. Hot Zone, of course, 6 seconds, main attack, aerial denial, Hot Zone, all of those things combined. What do you guys think? S tier inside of hot zone as well. I think it's going to be absolutely insane. And then a super to get back onto the zone as well. I think it's going to be very good. Knockout, I think he's going to be really, really strong on as well. Just think of the gas closing in, and he's got this main attack where if he just fires 3 shots in 3 choke points, the opponents can't run through that because they're going to get damage dealt to them. So I think it's going to be S tier inside of Knockout as well. And then, of course, Wipeout is pretty much the same as Bounty. I think S tier. So pretty much S tier across the board. I think maybe I'm even underrating him in other game modes. I think just S tier absolutely everywhere. So let's jump into the meta prediction then. What do you guys think? I think he's going to be the best brawler in the game. I think he's going to be pretty broken. I think the casuals are going to insanely underrate this brawler. Again, I'm not 100% certain on my predictions because I've not faced off against real players. Maybe his super slow reload speed will hurt him, but at the same time, I don't really see it. I think it's going to be very toxic. I think all things considered, straight away, I can just see that he's going to be a very strong brawler in the meta. I think minimum, he's going to be an S tier brawler. I don't think it's going to be below that. I think personally he's going to be the best brawler in the game, but I can see why maybe some people might think he's going to be like A tier, for example. But if you're saying anything below, I really think you might be a little bit deluded. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.